Oklahoma survives. It was getting a little bit tense in Norman. A lot of bit tense. I said going into this game that if Oklahoma won, I want to see them in the playoff. If they lost, I didn't want to see them in the playoff. Because if they had lost, they would have had the same record as Texas, who I'll talk about in just a moment. And Texas has the head-to-head, and LSU, like Texas, would have added a bad loss to a lineup of really good wins. But they found a way. And John Mateer, I do not care in the slightest that John Mateer went for 318 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. This Oklahoma offense is straight up not good. The good news is their defense is great, and their special teams are really good. And that's how they win games. That's totally fine. You can call them the BYU of the SEC. That's kind of what they are. They don't blow that many people out. BYU does that more often in the Big 12. Their offense isn't that good, but their defense is really great. They play sound fundamental football. It's all good. So Oklahoma beats LSU, mostly because the Tigers decided to blow some coverages on the back end of the defense. I mean, the go-ahead touchdown, yikes. That was a yikes for LSU fans who are still awaiting to hear whether Lane Kiffin will be their next head coach. This was an awesome football game. On my fan mood assessment, I forgot to do this earlier, by the way. I'm going to put Auburn at the very bottom, the worst of vibes, because they had a chance to go to a bowl game, maybe hire DJ Durkin with some momentum and beat Alabama and knock them out of the play, and they didn't do that. And Alabama, yeah, you go on the road, win at Jordan-Hare, that's the highest of vibes. A lot of polarizing teams in the scale during rivalry week. Oklahoma, the highest. LSU, no vibes. Who cares? Oklahoma, they haven't hired Lane Kiffin yet. Then the vibes will be really high in Baton Rouge. Oklahoma wins the game. They found a way. They deserve credit for that. They're 10-2. Their schedule is tough. They won games I didn't think they would. I thought they'd go over their win total of 6.5. They did. But they were 2 games better than I predicted. I had them 8-4 before the season. They wind up at 10-2. Good for Oklahoma. They should be in the college football playoff. Texas should not. Texas absolutely should not. I have heard and seen and read all these arguments about why Texas should be in the playoff and are you saying that you shouldn't schedule this? Hold on. Back up. The folks that want to throw out, well, there's just no reason to schedule a quality non-conference opponent. Yeah, there is. Because if you don't think that a 10-2 Texas with 0 Power 4 non-conference opponents that played 8 league games wouldn't be ripped on this very show and punished accordingly, in my view, you are very wrong. You are incredibly mistaken because, of course, that would be a conversation. It's interesting. The same sort of crowd that wanted last year to rip on Indiana. They haven't played anyone. SMU. They haven't played anyone. Their schedule is weak. Is actively right now probably telling you that Texas should be into the playoff because they could have made their schedule a heck of a lot weaker. Yeah, I don't buy that for a single moment. Texas is in the same position as Ole Miss was a year ago. You can whine and complain and say it's shout out to BYU football Twitter, by the way, for mocking Steve Sarkisian. That was a good one. You can say it's a disservice, and I don't fault Sark for pumping up his team. Of course he should. He's the team's head coach. He should fight for his guys and his program and state why he thinks they should be in the playoff. That's what he's supposed to do. What we're supposed to do is figure out whether he is correct or whether he is BSing on behalf of his own program. In this instance, it is the latter. Because his point was, well, last year, the team that played for the national championship lost to Northern Illinois. Yes, they did. You know what they didn't do? Lose another football game. And yes, Texas has some really good wins. Are we going to question Texas A&M's resume at any point in time? Anybody? Bueller? No? Okay, we're not going to do that. That's fine. I think Texas A&M is a really good team. Cursed to not make the SEC championship. Worst of vibes, by the way, in College Station. Oh, man, that is a clear and obvious. I don't think you could have a more perfect scenario to make the playoff, but on my fan mood assessment be in the worst of vibes camp, Texas A&M's right there. Lost to their rival, can't make the SEC championship game, but they'll probably host a playoff game, so at least there's that, Aggie fans. So Texas not beating Florida is completely absurd because let's draw out the hypothetical, and the SEC loves hypotheticals. Man, they are all about them. Have been for quite a while. If the Longhorns didn't schedule Ohio State, which, by the way, if they'd won that game, which they could have, then this is a completely different conversation. Or if they'd beaten Georgia, who's a really good team, but they smacked them around. Anyway, if Texas had scheduled a different Power 4 school, because I hope we can all agree that playing 8 conference games and 4 cupcakes is, not okay. Just like we can all agree that Indiana having 9 conference games and 3 cupcakes is also not okay. If you come across someone who's opining about how Texas should be in, it's not fair and they scheduled this and they aren't rewarded, make sure they don't have any tweets ripping on Indiana for playing 9 conference games and 3 cupcakes there. Because if they do, well, then you should want Texas to make that a Power 4 game. Who's to say Texas wins that game? You can't guarantee that. If they could lose to Florida, they could lose to anybody. Florida stinks. I don't care if they beat Florida State. Florida stinks. And so I do not for 1 second want Texas into the college football playoff. I'm fine with them being in the discussion because of their wins. And if there had been mass chaos, then yeah, I might have gotten on board with it. At 9-3, I'd put them ahead of Miami. I'd put them ahead of a 9-3 Notre Dame. Guess what? The results on the field need to matter. And I do not care what Texas could have done. Are you saying that they should do this? Teams shouldn't control their schedule. That's the answer to the question. Because if your solution or if your statement is, well, Texas just needs to not cancel. No one should ever play a good non-conference game. You're removing the incentive. I'm not completely disagreeing with you. I'm saying, and this is going to apply to the Notre Dame-Miami conversation, if the Irish get in and the Hurricanes, who dominated a ranked team on the road, by the way, in Pitt, like I thought they would today, if Miami gets left out, the same conversation will pop up. Well, where's the incentive? And then we'll get back to a point I've been making for a long time. Teams controlling their own college football schedule is completely and utterly absurd. It's completely absurd. You should not feel bad for Texas. You should feel worse for Vanderbilt. They just had the best season in the history of their program. They won 10 games for the first time ever. They've never done that before. And the Commodores are not likely to make the playoff. Part of the reason could be that Texas had them down big. They staged a late comeback, but we all watched the game and realized, yeah, okay, Texas is better than Vanderbilt. Well, Texas doesn't have the same record as Vanderbilt. The Longhorns are 9-3. The Commodores are 10-2. And look, I am here for 10-2 teams getting left out of the playoff because my everydayers out there know what my priority is. Maintain as much regular season, week-to-week urgency as you possibly can. My biggest concern with all of this and Texas and it being Texas and not somebody else, you're right, by the way, Vanderbilt could get left out of the playoff. Is there going to be as much national attention and outrage? Probably not. Just a guess. Just a guess. My concern is where we're going to go as a sport is Texas getting left out will be a rationalization for canceling quality non-conference games and expanding the playoff, neither of which are good for the sport. But that's probably where it's going. Because as I've said for a while, I'll finish with this. I do not believe the hardcore expansionists out there who are drunk off of the money that the playoff has gotten them, or at least the people that benefit from it. I don't think they'll stop until it's 24 teams. And then we can debate whether a 4-loss Tennessee should get into the playoff, or a 4-loss Iowa, or maybe a 5-loss SEC team one day. Because someone will look at the FCS playoffs, which are about to start in earnest and had some craziness today. Youngstown State blew a 35-7 lead against Yale. Just saying. They're going to look at that and they're going to say, well, they've got 24 down there. Why shouldn't we have 24 up here? Which is the dumbest bumper sticker logic you can come up with. But that's kind of the world it feels like we live in. So I don't want to see Texas in the playoff. I want to see Oklahoma in the playoff. I don't want to see Notre Dame in the playoff unless Miami's also in the playoff. I don't think that really works. I don't want to see BYU get left out of the playoff. I'm going to have more on that on tomorrow's show.